About 5 and 7 years of age, when the deciduous teeth are lost and the permanent teeth come in. And this time it's very apropos to straighten teeth because they don't have collagenous fibers attaching them. They're not fixed to the bone or to each other. So we can control the eruption of these teeth very easily, very passively really, without any force. And so it's a great time to have straight teeth. And what we do is we depend on the natural eruptive forces of the teeth. In fact, as the teeth erupt, they push themselves up, and they can enlarge the space, they can push other teeth apart. So we're going to use that eruptive force rather than any force in the appliance itself. So the appliance is really a template, and it really serves as a model for the teeth just to fall into and guide them into place. Once they're in place and they're straightened, then we depend on the adult collagenous fibers to form. These can form all the way down to the root end, and tooth to soft tissue, and tooth to bone, they stabilize the teeth. And then these teeth will not relapse later on. In fact, if you made one of these teeth crooked, it would snap back straight because the collagenous fibers now are formed on straight teeth, not on crowded teeth. In orthodontics, it's frequently done at, say, 11 and 12 years of age, after the fibers are already formed around these teeth. And then we go to straighten them, we stretch these fibers, and they do have a memory. And when we let go, they want to snap right back. So 75% of orthodontics that's done at around 11 and 12 relapse long term, whereas we get not much more than about 5% relapse long term. Anyway, then we also depend on orthopedic jaw alignment. If you move the lower jaw forward and hold it there, the lower jaw will grow substantially. In fact, we can stimulate the jaw to grow substantially, and this affects the overjet. It can improve the overjet and also improve the intercuspation of the teeth in the back of the mouth. So these three things basically are why this system works. We have two appliances that we use. One is called the C-Series or Night Guide, and it has an opening in the front. The only reason for that is to make it more comfortable for a patient to wear, and they can put that in, still breathe through their mouth. We don't like them to breathe through their mouth, but a lot of young children do. But then we graduate into this appliance, which covers the first permanent molars, and this is called the G-Series. This appliance generally is worn about 5 months while the centrals come in, and then we graduate to this when the laterals come in. If the first permanent molars are already in when we start the case, I would start with this one because it has first permanent molars in it. This one only goes up through the second deciduous molars. So we usually use two appliances. This appliance then would be used up to about 12 years of age, and then the child is dismissed, but that appliance is used as a retainer as well. So we're going to take one measurement. Now we're going to measure the space that's available between the two canines for the permanent teeth to come in. If the deciduous teeth are way front and there's a large overjet and they're protrusive, we would measure that where we think those teeth belong, which might be back about 2 millimeters in front of the lower teeth. Or we could measure the lower teeth, which can be quite accurate. So we're going to measure from the mesial of one canine here over to the mesial of the other canine. This one happens to be a number 3. Well, if this child's going to have crowding, and we want to prevent crowding, if we put a number 3 in there, it's going to restrict the natural arch enlargement that's going to come. So we would put a number 4 in there. Now, from a 3 to a 4 allows for about 3 millimeters in the anterior segment for increase. So if there was 1.5 millimeter increase that we needed, we'd go up from 3 to 3.5. If there, so the first appliance, we usually will increase it by 2 half sizes. So if we measured a 3, we usually will put in a 4, and that appliance will be this appliance, and it will be used for about 5 months. Now the next appliance goes in when the laterals start coming in. When the laterals come in, another 2 millimeters is required. And at that time, we put in an appliance that's 3 half sizes larger. So it would be not 4.5, 5, but 5.5. So we've gone from a 3 up to a 5.5, which would give us a total of 4 millimeters of expansion. And that's the average that we get if we start at the right time. If you don't start at the right time, then you don't get the advantage of the centrals coming in or the laterals. Now, a research project that was done many years ago in St. Louis, Missouri, showed that the majority of malocclusions form around 6 to 8 years of age. Also, if we look at the crowding of the incisors, almost all of the incisal crowding starts by 6 and finishes by 8, and the rest of the time into adulthood, very little crowding occurs. So if we could prevent this from occurring, we could hold this dentition down here and eliminate all this crowding that would be coming long term. Also, the overbite increases about 2 millimeters between about 6 and 10 years of age. And so we'd like to prevent that from developing because the overbite is so hard to correct orthodontically. We had an experiment done in Finland. Finland is a socialized country, so it's very easy to go into a little town and call every child in the town in to have an experiment done. And so we took 4 towns in Finland, and we had 167 children in the night guide technique and 104 in the control group. And this was done out of Turku University in Finland. In the beginning, there was no difference between the crowding, between the control and the treated sample, and there was no difference in the mandibular crowding, but at the end of the treatment period, there was a tremendous difference between the 2 samples. In other words, the treated sample corrected the children down almost to a 0 amount of crowding. We saw the same thing in overbite and overjet, except we don't want to correct overbite and overjet less than 2 millimeters because we anticipate further growth after 8 years of age. We also increased the mandibular growth by almost twice as much as they got in the control sample. So this helps in controlling the overjet and also intercuspation. And for example, class 2 molar relation, we can correct that with advancing the mandible very easily without moving teeth. So we get about 4 millimeters of an average. If the case is started at the right time, we get 4 millimeters in the lower and 5 in the upper. Well, about 95 to 96% of all crowding in the United States is less than 4 millimeters. So we could prevent probably close to 95% of all crowding by doing this. Here's a tooth that's at right angles, and you see it's been brought in just with passive wear. The children only wear these appliances at night. The appliances are prefabricated, so they come in various sizes. There are 11 sizes of the first appliance, and there are about 13 sizes of the second appliance. But these appliances come according to 2 size widths of the teeth. And so we're looking for children that have minimal overbites in the deciduous dentition. An overbite of 2 millimeters in the deciduous dentition, for example, will develop into a 4 millimeter permanent overbite. So we're interested in any baby overbite over about 1.25 millimeters, 1.5 millimeters. Any overjet over 3 millimeters. Crowded or very minimal spaced cases. Teeth that are close together look very nice for the mother at 5 years of age, and she wonders why they're ever going to have crowding. But the bigger permanent teeth are never going to fit in there. So even with spaces of 3 millimeters, about 80% of those will end up with crowded cases. You have to have 6 millimeters of space around here in order not to have crowded teeth. We usually start when the first permanent central breaks tissue. Now the mother can see that large tooth. And if you explain to her that we're going to need 4 teeth that big to get in this space, not only the laterals are 0.5 millimeter bigger than that tooth. So if we could measure that tooth, if that tooth were 5 millimeters, we could multiply it by 4, which is 20 millimeters, add a 0.5 millimeter here. We need 21 millimeters around this arc in order to get those permanent teeth in. And this child does not have that. So that can be explained to the mother. So here is overjet, for example. It will correct overjet, overbite, crowding, temporomandibular joints, and we'll be able to correct them so that they're what we call perfect class 1 occlusions at the end. This little girl has sucked her thumb and she's pulled the maxilla forward. She's pushed the mandible back. So she has a profile defect here. If it's not corrected, she'll have that the rest of her life. So here she is at 12 years of age. She's been out of retention for approximately 4 years, and her face has remained the same. Now she's going to have that face for the rest of her life. Not only that, but she can start school with straight teeth, so the kids aren't going to start teasing her. Here's her teeth when we started. She had an 8 millimeter overjet in front. The teeth stuck out of her face, and here she is at 12. Here's her occlusion at the beginning, and here it is at 12. And she was in treatment about a year and a half. They wear this appliance only at night. If they wear it 1 hour while they're sleeping, it'll get the same result as if they wear it all night long, with the exception of severe overjets. Here's overbite. Now this little girl's overbite, for example, almost covers the lower, at least half of the lower deciduous teeth. I would like to stop the upper teeth from erupting at about that level. Then the crown will hide that gummy smile that she has. Well, 25% of adults have gummy smiles, and about 75% of those are in women because they elevate their lips so high when they smile. So if a child has a gummy smile that's more than 3 millimeters, generally we can, they're going to have a gummy smile as an adult, and we can prevent that. Here she is at 8 years of age, and you can see we've just about eliminated the gummy smile. Her gummy tissue will relapse or recede about 1 more millimeter on the average, so she'll completely cover any of that gum tissue by the time she's 12 years of age. Here are her incisors. You see almost the entire lower incisor is covered. That's a very deep deciduous overbite. That's going to be a very severe adult case. Her teeth lingually inclined, and those will be altered also with this technique. So here she is at the end. This is at 8 years of age. You see the midline is perfect, and the overbite and overjet is what we would consider perfect orthodontically, about 1 millimeter of overlap. Crowding, generally the two incisors, central incisors, don't crowd. It's the laterals that are the last to come in that are short of space. So there are broken contacts here, and we can count about 4 broken contacts here, and that lends itself to a crowded case. So this tooth is going to squeeze itself forward. As this tooth rotates, it will squeeze the teeth on either side and open up that arch a little bit, as you see here. On the upper is not as important probably as the lower. It's not as diagnostic as the lower arch, but we do watch when the laterals and the canines come in. You can see that this has made room for itself. If we ran short of space at this point, we could strip the deciduous molars about 2 millimeters each. Here's a case that's very short of space for the lateral on both sides, and we did not strip teeth at all, but you see how they made room for themselves coming in. So we do not strip at the time the teeth are erupting. We would only strip baby teeth after they're already erupted, because we want them to have full expansion of the arch. Take advantage of that while they're erupting. Here's a case beforehand with rotated laterals, and they've been able to make room for themselves. Open bites also that suck their thumb, and we tell them to put the appliance in instead of the thumb, and this is successful in about 25% of cases in my hands. In pedodontists, for example, they can get about a 90% success rate out of the open bite with this appliance. So here's a child at 9 years of age. You see the teeth have come down nicely, and she's got a nice smile. Here's the open bite. If the front permanent teeth start coming in and the open bite is not closing down, I will then put a thumb-sucking appliance in, that the appliance is worn right over that appliance to give them correction. Our next appliance is for the mixed dentition, and this is for the 8 to 12-year-old. This is called the Occlusal Guide, or the G series. Now all 4 upper and lower permanent teeth are fully erupted, so these teeth are going to take more effort to straighten because there are collagenous fibers around them. So it's going to take effort. It's going to take exercise. So we have them bite down into the appliance as hard as they can for about 2 hours per day. Now, they might do it for 20 minutes or a half hour before they get up in the morning, and they might do a half hour before dinner, and they might do another hour after dinner while they're studying or playing with games and so forth. But they should have about 2 hours. Then they wear it also at night, just to maintain what they've done during the day. But the daytime wear is important to correct overbite and the crowding. That cannot be corrected with nighttime wear. If they have trouble wearing it at night, Sometimes the mother will just go in after they sleep. They can pop it in, or the child can wear it a little bit more actively during the day. 1 hour of active